fracking. You wait till you see what happens with your gasoline. Wait till you see what happens, and we cannot let this stuff continue to go on. One of my proudest accomplishments as president was to make America energy independent. The United States became the number one energy superpower on earth. Number one. Became number one. Bigger than Saudi Arabia, bigger than Russia by a lot. We left them all in the dust. They were all in the dust. But if the Democrats have their way, we are heading from energy dominance to energy disaster. That's what's happening. You have to see what's going on. Everything's being closed up. It's a disaster. The blackouts we saw in California last summer and all the time, and the windmill calamity that we're witnessing in Texas. Great state of Texas. We love Texas. But it's so sad when you look at it. That'll just be the start. How bad is wind power? So I talk about it all the time at CPAC, right? We went to CPAC, remember last, I said, we're going to watch the president. Well, Alice, the wind isn't blowing. I don't believe we'll have any electricity. Remember, we would kid, but I wasn't actually kidding. It's such an expensive form of energy. It's so bad for the environment. It kills the birds. It destroys the landscapes. And remember, these are structural columns with fans on them. They wear out. And when they wear out all over the country, you see them. Nobody takes them down. They're rotting. They're rusting. How this is environmentally good for our country. And it costs many, many times more than natural gas, which is clean. It costs many more and can fuel our great factories. Wind can't do that. And solar, I love solar, but it doesn't have the capacity to do what we have to do to make America great again. Sorry, it just doesn't have it. Under the radical Democrat policies, the price of gasoline has already surged 30% since the election and will go to $5, $6, $7, and even higher. So enjoy that when you go to the pump, and they'll say, that'll be about $200 to fill up your van. You'll go to the, remember they used to go to the little small vans? They got away from the big ones that everybody wanted. They went to the small ones. Well, you know what? Probably a good investment as long as these guys have their say, because, you know, it's a shame what's happening. Energy prices are going to go through the roof, and that includes your electric bills. That includes any bill having to do with energy, our biggest cost. We will now be relying on Russia and the Middle East for oil. And they talk about Russia, Russia, Russia. What's better than what this guy's done for Russia? I had oil where they were actually paying you to take it, okay? You know, that was a little, remember they were going to give you $37 a barrel, but you had to take it away. You had free oil almost for a period of time, and one way I was proud of it, but we also had to save the energy industry, and it worked out well. And I dealt with Russia and Saudi Arabia, and they cut back on production, and we got it back up. But now it's going the opposite, because now they're taking this incredible energy independence away from the people of our country, and you're going to see costs go like you have never seen them go before. It's a very sad and very stupid thing that they're doing. The Biden policies are a massive win for other oil-producing countries and a massive loss for the United States and our great citizens. Joe Biden and the Democrats are even pushing policies that would destroy women's sports. A lot of new records are being broken in women's sports. Hate to say that, ladies, but got a lot of new records. They're being shattered. You know, for years, the weightlifting, every ounce is like a big deal for many years. All of a sudden, somebody comes along and beats it by 100 pounds. Boom, boom. Now, young girls and women are incensed that they are now being forced to compete against those who are biological males. It's not good for women. It's not good for women's sports, which worked so long and so hard to get to where they are. The records that stood for years, even decades, are now being smashed with ease. smashed. If this is not changed, women's sports as we know it will die. They'll end. It'll end. What coach, if I'm a coach, you know, I want to be a great coach. What coach, as an example, wants to recruit a young woman to compete if her record can easily be broken by somebody who was born a man? Not too many of those coaches around, right? They are around. They won't be around long because they're going to have a big problem when their record is, we're 0-16, but we're getting better. No, I think it's crazy. I think it's just crazy what's happening. We must protect the integrity of women's sports. So important. After. And I don't even know. Is that controversial? You know, somebody said, well, that's going to be very controversial. I said, that's okay. You haven't heard anything yet. As you can see, the early weeks of the Biden administration have nothing less than, they've been a catastrophe for American workers and for American families. The task of our mission, and for us, it's our movement. As I said, a movement like has never been seen, I think we can probably say, never been seen anywhere in the world. I mean, nobody's ever seen a movement like this. I'd grow up and I'd watch somebody who came in second in New Hampshire, or first in Iowa, and that was the end, and they became famous for the rest of their lives. We won the election twice. I mean, you know, think about it. Twice. The task for our movement and our party is to stand up to this destructive agenda with confidence and with resolve. The future of the Republican Party is as a party that defends the social, economic, and cultural interests and values of working American families of every race, color, and creed. That's why the party is growing so rapidly and is becoming a different party. And it's becoming a party of love. You have to see outside the streets. I mean, there's such love. The flags. Amazing. Party that's incredible, the people, the spirit. And there are, as you probably heard a little while ago, I mean, there's more spirit now than there's ever been, including even before the election. More spirit now than we've ever seen, because people are seeing how bad it can be. And again, I want to thank Rush and Catherine, because what he did to get the word out has been incredible. Some people are irreplaceable, as Sean Hannity would say, and he said Rush is irreplaceable. But his spirit lives on, and that's something that we need and we love. Republicans believe that the needs of every citizen must come first. In fact, America must come first. We don't put it first. They don't put it first. Over the past 4 years, my administration delivered for Americans of all backgrounds like never before. Like never before. We built the strongest economy in the history of the world, raised wages, and achieved the lowest African American, Hispanic American, and Asian American unemployment rates ever recorded. It was so great for everybody of all backgrounds that even after the China virus, we are leading the world. Nobody's even close. We're leading it in the comeback. Our economic comeback has been incredible. That's because the financial and economic foundation we built was so strong that unlike other countries who are having a hard time, we didn't break. We came roaring back, and now our stock market and your 401ks are again at record levels, higher than ever before, actually. Many people have asked, what is Trumpism? A new term being used more and more. I'm hearing that term more and more. I didn't come up with it. But what it means is great deals, great trade deals, great ones, not deals where we give away everything, our jobs, our money. like the USMCA replacement of the horrible NAFTA. NAFTA was one of the worst deals ever made, probably the worst trade deal ever made. And we ended it. You know, a lot of people forget. We ended it. Now we have the USMCA, Mexico, Canada. It's incredible what it's done for our farmers who are doing fantastically. Did you see grain prices and grain sales are at an all-time high? Wheat, all-time high. So many elements of farms and farmers, and they love me. And remember, it's going to be very close in Iowa. Well, it wasn't close. We won in a landslide, Iowa, because our farmers know and they put up with it. And we did a lot of work with the tariffs and all these things that we had to do to get it. And now the farmers are doing great, but they're setting records. It means low taxes and eliminating job-killing regulations, Trumpism. It means strong borders, but people coming into our country based on a system of merit. So they come in and they can help us, as opposed to coming here and not being good for us, including criminals, of which there are many. It means no riots in the streets. It means law enforcement. It means very strong protection for the Second Amendment and the right to keep and bear arms. It means support for the forgotten men and women who have been taken advantage of for so many years, and they were doing great. They were doing great before that horrible thing from China came in and hit us, and now they're starting to do really well again. You know, if you think about it, we built the economy twice. We built it then, and then, like every other country in the world, it went down, and then we built it again. Now it's higher in many ways, certainly in the stock market, it's higher in many ways than it was before. That's because of the foundation, and no country comes even close to competing with our comeback. And it means a strong military and taking care of our vets, but a strong military, which we have totally rebuilt. We have rebuilt it. And our military has never been stronger than it is today. It was tired, it was depleted, it was obsolete, and now we have the best brand new equipment ever made, and it was all produced right here in the USA. Isn't that nice? And we take care of our vets. You know, we had a poll recently, just before leaving office. The vets had a 91% approval rating for the way we took care of them. That's the highest number in the history of the polls, the vet polls. On top of all of that, we have even created the Space Force, the first new branch of the United States military in nearly 75 years. The mission of the Democrat Party is to promote socialism. They want to promote socialism, ultimately leading, unfortunately, to communism. And that will happen. If you look at Venezuela, you look at some of these countries, that's why some of our biggest supporters are from South America, Latin America, because they've seen what goes on with all of this cancel culture, and you can't speak, and let's cut them off, and let's not give them words. The mission of our movement and of the Republican Party must be to create a future of good jobs, strong families, safe communities, a vibrant culture, and a great nation for all Americans, and that's what we're creating. Their party is based upon unvarnished disdain for America, its past, and its people. You see that happening. It's horrible, the way they treat the legacy of our country, the culture of our country. Our party is based on love for America and the belief that this is an exceptional nation blessed by God. We take great pride in our country. We teach the truth about history. We celebrate our rich heritage and national traditions. We honor George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Thomas Jefferson, and all national heroes. And of course, we respect our great American flag. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So nice. I started that hearing. We really were getting word of that, hearing that during some of the rallies, especially the latter rallies where we set records. We had 56 unbelievable packed rallies, and nobody's ever had anything like we had. And we started hearing, "We love you." And I asked somebody, because we really liked Ronald Reagan, right? He was a great president. We had others. But I said, did anybody ever say that to Ronald Reagan or to any of our great? And to the best of all of these political professionals' knowledge and pollsters, nobody's ever heard that chant before, man. So it's an honor. Believe me, it's an honor. It's a great honor. It's a great honor. When you think about "we love you," you're saying that about, I hate to say it, am I a politician? I don't know. Maybe I'm a politician. I hate to admit it. But it's an honor that you would say it. We believe in patriotic education and strongly oppose the radical indoctrination of America's youth. It's horrible. We are committed to defending innocent life and to upholding the Judeo-Christian values of our founders and of our founding. We embrace free thought, we stand up to political correctness, and we reject left-wing lunacy, and in particular, we reject cancel culture. We know that the rule of law is the ultimate safeguard, and we affirm that the Constitution means exactly what it says, as written, as written. They want to change it. They want to change it. They want to get rid of it, frankly. We believe in law and order, and we believe that the men and women of law enforcement are heroes who truly deserve our absolute support. We don't defund the police. We are not defunding the police. We believe in standing up to China, shutting down outsourcing, bringing back our factories and supply chains, and ensuring that America, not China, dominates the future of the world. That's what's going to happen. And by the way, we took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China. During my administration, they never gave us 10 cents. It was a one-way street. We took in hundreds of billions, and during negotiations, they would say, look, the one thing, we don't want any more of these tariffs. Those tariffs, we took in so much money. And what happened is they became competitive. So what happened with people, they wouldn't go to China. They'd build a lot of it back in our country. They would make it here instead. And in addition to that, we were taking in billions and billions and billions of dollars from China. But in all fairness to China, we made a trade deal with them. This was prior to COVID. Once COVID happened, I no longer cared so much about the trade deal because what happened with that was just disgraceful. But that's one of the things. That's one of the reasons that right now our farmers are doing so good. I used to tell China, look, go and get a lot of wheat, get a lot of different things, all of the things we just talked about. You better go out and do it because this country has not been treated fairly by you for many, many years, many, many years. We used to lose $504 billion trade deficit with China. $504 million a lot, right? You know that through the World Health Organization. Now take $504 million, make it $504 billion. We had deficits with China. It was absolutely insane that this could keep going on. It's amazing that you still have a country left. The people that did this to our country, they should be ashamed of themselves. They should be ashamed of themselves. Companies that leave America to create jobs in China and other countries that have ripped us off for years should not be rewarded. They should be tariffed, fined, and punished. They should not be rewarded. And that's what the Biden administration is doing. But of course, as you know, they have a very close personal relationship with China. So I don't expect much to happen. It's a shame, because it really is a threat. It's a tremendous economic threat. And thank God we've rebuilt our military. But it's a tremendous economic threat. Never forget it. These are the convictions that define our movement today and must define the Republican Party in the years ahead. Very simple. It's really quite simple, isn't it? Another one of the most urgent issues facing the Republican Party is that of ensuring fair, honest, and secure elections. Such a disgrace, such a disgrace. Such a disgrace. We must pass comprehensive election reforms, and we must do it now. The Democrats use the China virus as an excuse to change all of the election rules without the approval of their state legislatures, making it, therefore, illegal. It had a massive impact on the election. Again, you have to go to the legislatures to get these approvals. This alone would have easily changed the outcome of the election at levels that you wouldn't have even believed. Even with COVID, even with all of the things, the numbers are staggering. We can never let this or other abuses of the 2020 election be repeated or happen again. Can never let that happen again. You see what's going on. We've been set back so greatly with other countries and with the world. We need election integrity and election reform immediately. Republicans should be the party of honest elections that can give everyone confidence in the future of our country. Without honest elections, who has confidence? Who has confidence? This issue is being studied and examined. But the reality is you cannot have a situation where ballots are indiscriminately pouring in from all over the country. Tens of millions of ballots. Where are they coming from? They're coming all over the place. Where illegal aliens and dead people are voting and many other horrible things are happening that are too voluminous to even mention. But people know. I mean, it's being studied, and the level of dishonesty is not to be believed. We have a very sick and corrupt electoral process that must be fixed immediately. This election was rigged, and the Supreme Court and other courts didn't want to do anything about it. If you just take that one element where they didn't go through legislatures, it's illegal. You can't do it. It's in the Constitution. They didn't have the courage, the Supreme Court. They didn't have the courage to act, but instead used process and lack of standing. I was told the President of the United States has no standing. It's my election. It's your election. We have no standing. We had almost 20, if you think of it, we had almost 20 states go into the Supreme Court so that we didn't have a standing problem. They rejected it. They rejected it. They should be ashamed of themselves for what they've done to our country. They didn't have the guts or the courage to make the right decision. They didn't want to talk about it. You had the case led by the great state of Texas. 18 states went in. You don't have standing. Oh, let's not talk about it. They didn't have the guts to do what should be done. And that's on top of all of the other forms of cheating, but this is the most basic of all. They would have local courts and local politicians change the rules, in some cases a day or two before the election. This should never be allowed to happen to another presidential candidate or presidential race. Should never be allowed to happen. Today, I want to outline the steps that we must take to have an election system in this country that is honest, fair, and accurate. We need one election day, not 45, 30. One day, like it's been. And if Republicans don't get this and the other things I'm going to say, then you should, like the Supreme Court, be ashamed of yourselves. One day. And the only people that should be allowed to vote by mail are people that can be proven to be either very sick or out of the country or military where they can't do it. One day. They have millions and millions of ballots sitting around all over the place for long periods of time. Gee, I wonder what happens with those ballots. I wonder what happens. It's common sense. It's a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. There should be a legitimate reason for someone to vote absentee. Has to have a reason. We should eliminate the insanity of mass and very corrupt mail-in voting. We must have voter ID. Voter ID. You know, to get into the Democrat National Convention, when they had the convention, you needed voter ID. You needed an ID card. You couldn't get in unless you had an ID. So many people told me you can't get in that place, you need ID. Nobody had ID. You need voter ID. They know that. This is a con job. They're conning everybody. They know that. They know the wall was good. They knew the wall would work, but they didn't want to have it because we wanted it. I made one big mistake on the wall. I should have said, we will not have a wall. And then they would have said, let's build a wall. I made a big mistake. I made a big mistake. I'm sorry. Took us a year and a half extra because of that mistake. We will not have a wall. We need a wall immediately, said Chuck Schumer. We need universal signature matching. They want to pass a bill where you don't have to match signatures, where signatures don't mean anything. Now, they know it's all, just like with the wall, just like with voter ID, when you need to go into anything that's Democrat-run, you need it. But for voting, which is our most sacred institution, they don't want to let you have it. There should be a person who votes. For every ballot. Every ballot. And you saw what happened in Detroit and Philadelphia and many other places, swing states mostly, all over, but swing states mostly. You saw what happened. You saw what was going on. You saw that more people, you take a look at the votes. When you have more votes than you have people, that's a problem, right? Is that a problem? You know, we have a little problem adjusting in Detroit. We seem to have more votes than we have people, a lot more votes. An election-changing number. We're not talking about a number where you can't. No, these are election-changing numbers. In Pennsylvania, they had hundreds of thousands of more votes than they had people voting. What's that all about? What's that all about? Cheating, they say. Yeah, I'd say so. In the history of our country, and it has taken place for years in Pennsylvania and Detroit and various other places, but there's tremendous like this because they use COVID as a way of cheating. That's what happened, and everybody knows it. Hundreds of thousands and millions of ballots. They used it as a way of doing what they've wanted for many years, and the Republicans have to do something about it. They better do something about it. Our election process is worse than that, in many cases, of a third world country. You know that. You saw what was going on. Even if you consider nothing else, it is undeniable that election rules were illegally changed at the last minute in almost every swing state, with the procedures rewritten by local politicians. You're not allowed to do that. And local judges. They want more time. They want this, want that. All done by local politicians or local judges, as opposed to state legislatures as required by the Constitution of the United States. And these are numbers that are massive. These aren't little numbers. These are numbers that in each state is a transformative. It changes the outcome of the election. And it's not close. Regardless of your political views, this should concern you as a constitutional matter. And the Supreme Court, again, didn't have the guts or the courage to do anything about it. And neither did other judges. And Democrats even admitted in Time magazine, which is, say, on the liberal side, that they just couldn't hold it in. They had to brag about it. What they did, they had to brag about it. They couldn't do it. You got to read the story. It's a disaster for our country that we can allow something so corrupt to happen. Read that article. I encourage you. You read that article. Yet all of the election integrity measures in the world will mean nothing if we don't have free speech. And that's where we're at now. If Republicans can be censored for speaking the truth and calling out corruption, we will not have democracy, and we will have only left-wing tyranny. And we can do this. We can do this. We're smarter than they are. We're tougher than they are. For some reason, we don't get it done. We let them attack our businesses, and we don't attack their businesses. I believe your numbers are bigger than their numbers, but you're nicer than they are. You're not as vicious as they are. In the past, we would debate. I would have it. I'd debate. You've seen me for many years. They throw something. I debate. They debate. Who knows who wins? You know, people go, they vote, they see what happens. But they would have an idea. They would disagree. The public would hear it. The debate and discourse would take place, and then somebody would make a decision. You would win, you would lose. The public would make up its mind, but now there is no debate because they refuse to allow our side to even speak or be heard. They don't want debate because we have easy victories in a debate, very easy victories. It's called common sense. It's called other things, but it's called common sense, so they don't want a debate. The time has come to break up big tech monopolies and restore fair competition. Republicans, conservatives must open up arms and repeal Section 230 liability protections. And if the federal government refuses to act, then every state in the union where we have the votes, a lot of them, big tech giants like Twitter, Google, and Facebook, should be punished with major sanctions whenever they silence conservative. And Governor DeSantis of Florida and in Texas and in other states are doing this. If they do what they're doing, Florida, and that legislation will pass, and Texas and others will have tremendous power to do what's right and what's fair. We have no time to waste. Nancy Pelosi and the Democrats in Congress are racing to pass a flagrantly unconstitutional attack on the First Amendment and the integrity of our elections, known as H.R. 1. Do you know what H.R. 1 is? It's a disaster. Their bill would drastically restrict political speech, empower the federal government to shut down dissent, and turn the Federal Election Commission into a partisan political weapon. In addition, it virtually eliminates voter ID requirements nationwide, effectively ends all registration deadlines. Can you believe this? Requires states to give ballots to automatically registers every welfare recipient to vote, and puts unaccountable, unelected bureaucrats in charge of drawing congressional districts. That's a lot of fun. This monster must be stopped. It cannot be allowed to pass. Now more than ever is the time for tough, strong, and energetic Republican leaders who have spines. We need strong leadership. We cannot have leaders who show more passion for condemning their fellow Americans than they have ever shown for standing up to Democrats, the media, and the radicals who want to turn America into a socialist country. Instead of attacking me and, more importantly, the voters of our movement, top establishment Republicans in Washington should be spending their energy in opposing Biden, Pelosi, Schumer, and the Democrats. I've said to some of them, I said, you know, during the Obama years and now during Biden, if you spent the same energy on attacking them, you'd actually be successful, as you do on attacking me in many cases. The Democrats don't have grandstanders like Mitt Romney, Little Ben Sass, Richard Burr, Bill Cassidy, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Pat Toomey. And in the House, Tom Rice, South Carolina, Adam Kinzinger, Dan Rouse, Anthony Gonzalez, that's another beauty, Fred Upton, Jamie Herrera Butler, Peter Meyer, John Katko, David Valadao, and of course the warmonger, a person who loves seeing our troops fighting, Liz Cheney. How about that? The good news is in her state, she's been censured, and in her state, her poll numbers have faster than any human being I've ever seen. So hopefully they'll get rid of her with the next election. Get rid of them all. Democrats are vicious. Remember this, it's true. Democrats are vicious. He said evil. Well, there is evil there. But they're vicious, they're smart, and they do things. You gotta hand it to them. They always stick together. You don't have Mitt Romneys in the group. They always stick together. Fortunately, for the Republican Party, the Democrats have horrible policies like open borders, sanctuary cities, defunding the police, and the ridiculous, totally ridiculous, Green New Deal. So they stick together, they're smart, they're vicious, they got everything going, but policies are no good. So hence we have, congratulations, the Republican Party. After this, they might stick with those policies. We have to be careful. No, their policies are horrible. Think of it. Defund the police. How did that work out? But if Republicans do not stick together, the rhinos that we're surrounded with will destroy the Republican Party and the American worker, and will destroy our country itself. The rhinos, you know, Republican in name only. But the Republican Party is united. The only division is between a handful of Washington, D.C. establishment political hacks and everybody else all over the country. I think we have tremendous unity. When you look at the crowds outside that want your seat so badly, they will take your seat in 2 seconds. They want your seat. Congratulations. Congratulations on getting in, by the way. I'm very impressed. And that's why I'm announcing that I will be actively working to elect strong, tough, and smart Republican leaders. Speaking of that, I heard Jim Jordan did a great job. Thank you. heard that from Mark Meadows. I heard, oh, there he is. Look at that. Hi, Jim. I heard you were great. In fact, I hated to follow you. I want to follow other people. I could name them, too. I like to follow other people. I heard you were great. Thank you very much. Jim Jordan. Great, great athlete. People don't know he was a great wrestler, tremendous numbers of victories. The he was a champion, college champion for a long period of time. He's a winner and a leader, and he doesn't play games. He likes to win. He likes to win. And we have a lot of people in our party that like to win, Jim, right? But I heard you were great. Thank you very much. But we want Republican leaders loyal to the voters and who will work proudly for the vision that I've laid out today. What is it? So simple, right? So simple. Military, law and order, great trade deals, great education. So simple. Does anybody get it? What are they doing? Does anybody get it? It has just been stated that President Trump's endorsement is the most powerful asset in politics. You believe that? Who would have thought that was going to happen? Who would have thought that's going to happen, Jim? In last year's congressional primary, 120, listen to this, it's crazy. 120 of 122 candidates I endorsed won. 120. That's almost as good as Jim's wrestling record. And the two that lost were beaten by people claiming to be more Trump than their opponent. So I like those two people very much also. In the Senate, I was undefeated in endorsements with a record of 20-0. My endorsement of Mitch McConnell, at his request, it's all right. It's all right. Now, he made my endorsement, brought him from 1 point down to 20 points up, and he won his race in the great state and actually the great Commonwealth of Kentucky, and he won it, and very easily. And I said, I wonder if I'm doing the thing here, but you know what? I did what I did, but he went from 1 point down to 20 points up very quickly, immediately, actually, and he won his race. And if you compare that to his other elections, I'm sure you'll see something interesting. But you know what? We got a Republican elected, and now have to use Republicans to take care of the election frauds and all of the other things that are happening that shouldn't be allowed to happen in our country. It's very simple. Because of the efforts campaigning, we had huge gains in the House, and I helped keep many senators in their seats, and they will admit it, so that it's now 50-50, instead of Republicans being down anywhere from 8 to 10 seats. And they'll admit it, we'd be down 8 to 10 seats at campaign. We held rallies for some of the senators that were down, and nobody talks about it. Nobody wants to talk. The press doesn't talk about it. With me at the top of the ticket, not a single Republican member of Congress lost their race for the first time in decades. We won 26 of 26 toss-up races. Toss-up. Think of that. 26 of 20, and those are toss-up. Those are races that could anyway. We were expected to lose 25, and instead we won 15 seats and almost, oh, why couldn't we have done a couple more? Almost cost Crazy Nancy her job. We'll do that the next time around. I received almost, listen to this number, because you know the fake news doesn't ever talk about these numbers. I heard this one for the first time. I received almost 1.5 million more votes than all of the Republican House candidates combined. So how the hell is it possible that we lost? It's not possible. I got more votes. I got more, which is me. When I say I, I'm talking about we. We got more votes than any incumbent president in the history of our country, almost 75 million votes. And that doesn't include the votes and ballots they threw out, okay? Include them, you'll see that are much different. We did even better in the second election than we did in the first. You know, I won the first, and we won the second. We did much better. Sort of strange, right? How did you do? Well, we did much better the second time. Oh, you did? Really? What? a disgrace. What a disgrace to our country. I got over 11 million, very close to 12 million more votes than we got in 2016. And I was told by John McLaughlin that if you, the great pollster, that if you get, we had 63 in 2016, 63 million. Sir, if you get to 66 million, you have it made. We got to almost 75 million, and what the hell happened? What happened? What happened when they closed all of the counting booths? What happened at 3 o'clock in the morning? What happened at 3:02 in the morning? What happened? No president has lost an election after carrying Florida, Ohio, and Iowa, and I won them all, and I won them by a lot, by a lot. I won 94% of the primary vote. No president who received more than 75% of the primary vote has ever lost an election. I had a record number, and no president has ever, and we're talking about a much lower number than we got, has lost an election. Thanks to my coattails, thank you. We have to have a sense of humor. Thanks to my coattails, Democrats failed to flip a single state legislature, think of it, or a legislative chamber, because Republicans came out to vote for me. Now, they say it differently. The press, the fake news spins it differently. Despite how well they did, Trump didn't win. That's such a lie. And many legislatures, many legislators told me, they said they were going to lose their race. It wasn't going to happen. And that happened. One in particular told me from a great swing state, said, I thought I was going to lose my position, lose my race. And I went out with my wife the night before the election, and I saw all these Trump signs and the American flags and the spirits on the streets. I said, darling, I think we're going to win. He said, but you were far, far, far more popular than me. They do lots of polls. You were way, way ahead of me, sir. And the next day I was right. He said, he won the election by a lot, and you lost the election. And sir, it's not possible that you lost, because you got a lower number than I did, and you were so far ahead of me. You're the person that brought everybody out to vote. And I do agree with that.